read with him. So that was a big thrill for me, and it was very sort of disarming, and very, very, very interesting man. So,
Sala is a very unusual name, and I asked her, how did you get that name Sala? And she told me that she was really supposed to be named Sarah, S-A-R-A, but her parents kept calling her Sala because of the accent. And so she decided to spell it the way her parents called her. So that's how the name Sala came about. It's a very original, singular name.
That's a good one. Actually, so let's go back to Mr. Takei, and you have spoken very highly of this project in other interviews. So what makes this project special to you other than, of course, it speaks to your experience?
To tell the story of the internment is something of a life mission of mine. I think the failure of our democracy under those historical times has an important lesson for all Americans, because it happened to our United States Constitution. Yes, we were the ones that were imprisoned, but what was really the victim was our Constitution. And we learned from that how fragile our Constitution is. As Americans, we all need to know that we have a responsibility to make our Constitution true and to make it a better democracy. And so telling this story is, we founded the Japanese American National Museum here in Los Angeles, but it's a national museum, and we send our exhibits throughout the country. The exhibits travel. And I've been speaking at colleges and some high schools on the internment experience to people. It has been a personal mission of mine. But the most powerful way to reach people is not just through education, the intellectual, but through the heart, combined with the mind, to understand the story as human beings. And a musical is a powerful way of connecting with audiences. And to tell that story, not just in little theaters or in high school auditoriums, but on the most important, the biggest stage in American theater, Broadway. And so we have the opportunity to do that with this. Allegiance is an important story. It's a powerful drama. And the music that Jay has created is glorious. And I'm really impressed by his fluency in so many different musical languages. The internment happened in the 1940s, and he captures the sound, the rhythm, and the feel of the 1940s popular songs, like the Andrews Sisters songs. He also captures the sound of Japanese folk music. And of course, it's Broadway theater, so glorious love songs, heartbreaking love songs, and some wonderful, lively, Broadway numbers, amusing numbers. It's Broadway, and it connects with the heart and the mind together. And that's why I think it's so important to tell this story on Broadway.
What's more, this is for Jay and Lorenzo, and I know you talked about how your cast was built, but yeah, how did you go about getting your cast other than the chance meeting?
Well, so Jay talked about the first time that we got Leia, and we had reached out to Leia through sort of the channels that you would imagine, you would reach an actor through, her agent, and people had worked with her. But the thing that probably we just lucked out, we didn't know how much of a Star Trek fan she is. and when she got the script, it was like, wait a second, do I get to work with Sulu? So we probably heard that she was going to join the project from her Twitter stream.
Right. Leia is notorious for pretty much turning down every project that passes her desk. As you can imagine, she gets a lot of offers, and so we didn't have a lot of hopes to get her, and it was really the fact that George was involved, I think. Also because I knew a lot of her friends on Facebook, and I made them like send her Facebook messages. Because I've worked with a lot of Asian Americans who'd worked with her, and it's a tight community, and we watch out for our own. Now, for this cast of 23 people, we had 4 weeks of auditions on both coasts of the United States, and so we have an incredible, we saw hundreds of people, incredible cast, and so when you all get to see it down in San Diego, you'll see assembled probably the most glorious set of voices and actors that Asian America has to offer.
And so how much is Allegiance based on true events for Jay and Lorenzo?
You know, what happened when Jay and I set out to write the story for Allegiance was that, as Jay talked about, we were inspired by the things that George had told us about his experience. But what started at that moment was a period of a lot of research and a lot of reading and a lot of reading up on what had happened. And there's quite a bit of sort of true, historically accurate events that sort of underlie the story of Allegiance. But ultimately, the story of Allegiance is about a family, and a family in which we wanted the widest possible audience to be able to identify with, to recognize themselves in their struggles and their relationships and their problems and their triumphs. And so, in that sense, it's a story about a true story, a true history, part of American history, but about a family and relationships and themes that apply to everybody. So it's no one's particular story, but there are definitely many aspects of the story that are historically accurate and that happened. And that makes the tragedy of what happened even more poignant to Michelle.
Just to add to that, this is, I think, one of the few musicals we found where the guys really like it, because you know, a lot of guys say, you know, musical, I don't want to see a musical, but then this is about history and conflict and war and patriotism and honor. And George brings so much to the character that people get really wrapped up in it. And at the end of the musical, you look around and all the guys are crying. It's really kind of funny to see the women are like, "What are you doing?" So it's very inclusive that way.
And actually, this question goes for Paul Nakauchi. And you played apparently iconic roles such as the King in The King and I.
Yes.
And yeah, what makes this role of Tatsuo Omura very special in your eyes?
Well, for me it's special because The King and I, which is a wonderful role, and actually it's one, up until now, I mean, it's one of the few roles for an Asian American male, you know, that was a strong, you know, powerful character. And I've been very fortunate in my career to have played that role in London with Elaine Page. But I feel so fortunate to be playing this role because this is another very strong character who believes, who has very strong beliefs, and conveys a sense of honor and dignity, you know, to his children. And for an Asian American male actor, you know, in theater today, this is like one of 2 or 3 roles that, you know, comes your way. And so I feel very lucky that I'm part of this team and of this extremely talented team, to be able to bring, you know, what I have experienced and some of, you know, who I am to the role. So I look forward to it with so much anticipation, you know, to see how it all unfolds.
And actually, this question is also for Mr. Nakauchi again. And how has it been as an Asian actor on Broadway and the West End? What obstacles did you have to overcome?
Well, you know, I don't think it's there. I mean, the truth of the matter is that there just aren't a lot of roles out there. You know? So that's just a fact. For myself, I've been very lucky and I've been fortunate in actually doing the couple roles that are out there, you know, and so, but it's a struggle, you know, I mean, when I was in The King and I on Broadway, I had auditioned for a lot of the new musicals that were coming down the pike. And, you know, things have changed a lot. I mean, this was like 15 years ago. But for Telly and some of the younger Asian American actors that are coming up, they have more opportunity because we as a society are seeing things more inclusively now, you know. Whereas even 15 years ago, things were limited basically to The King and I for Asian American performers, or Miss Saigon, or a Flower Drum Song, you know, in the musical theater realm. But that's why, again, I say I feel so incredibly fortunate to be a part of this program, because this is another musical that will add a whole new, you know, cast of people, a whole new vehicle for more talented Asian performers to come into these roles, as Miss Saigon did, because before Miss Saigon, you know, they said that they had trouble finding Asian American, you know, actors and actresses and singers. Well, because there's nothing out there for them to do. Now that when Miss Saigon came up and it was on Broadway and there have been so many national tours, you have a whole pool now of Asian American actors and actresses and singers, and, you know, wonderful, wonderful singers. I mean, look at all the wonderful Filipino singers that came from Miss Saigon. So it is getting better. It's slow process, like with all sort of race, sort of, you know, relations in America. Things take a much slower pace than we might actually like to have happen, you know. And sometimes it goes, you know, a person's career sort of like you get too old to do things that, you know. But here we are in 2011, and things for you, for all of you young people out there, I think there's a much brighter, you know, future ahead.
As Paul said, we've made progress, but it's been very slow. And sometimes there are steps backwards as well. I'm sure all of you know Akita, the anime. You don't know? Well, it's a tremendously popular anime that takes place in post-apocalyptic Tokyo. And Warner Brothers bought the rights to that. And this was, I guess, about 6, 7, 8 months ago. They announced their casting ideas. They were talking about people like Justin Timberlake and...
Sorry to interrupt, but they actually gave them the green light.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. I was going to work up to the present, but giving you a little history. They were casting it all with white actors. You know, it's post-apocalyptic. Well, if they want to change it, they should start with a clean slate. Have a whole new story. Why buy Akira and then change it completely, you know? And so there was a great wave of criticism and protest to that approach. Well, they retreated on that, and we thought that maybe we had communicated that they learned something.
You were instrumental in
Right. You use what we have available now, the technology, Twitter and Facebook and so forth, and so the word spread like wildfire, and Warner Brothers retreated on that. And we thought they had learned from that, but now it's come back again, and as you point out, they're still insisting on going the same route. Interestingly, Leonardo DiCaprio, who's a young person, you know, and he would think young, but he's behind the project as one of the 3 or 4 producers. So Hollywood makes some progress, grudgingly more often than not, and we